Hello, today we will be talking about schizophrenia and drugs that treat schizophrenia, known as antipsychotics. To understand schizophrenia and drugs that treat schizophrenia, one must understand what a neuron is. A neuron is a brain cell that is in every single animal. Neurons communicate through each other through a process called synaptic transmission. As you can see in the diagram, there's synapses in between the two neurons. To communicate, neurons release a chemical known as neurotransmitters. There are many different types of neurotransmitters, as you will see in this presentation. Neurotransmitters bind to different receptors, which cause changes in the cell, which accounts for synaptic transmission. Now, what is schizophrenia? Schizophrenia is a mental disorder classified by severe distortions of reality and perceptual disturbances. It affects about 1% of the population, and it is very detrimental to live with.
Schizophrenia can be characterized into three different symptoms: cognitive symptoms, positive symptoms, and negative symptoms. Cognitive symptoms include impaired working memory. This is a type of memory that is necessary for completing everyday tasks. People with schizophrenia will also find impairments in executive functioning, which is their ability to make decisions. Lastly, for the cognitive symptoms, they might also have impaired ability to pay attention to certain tasks. All three are obvious symptoms that can be detrimental to someone's daily functioning. The second type of symptoms are positive symptoms. These include disordered speech, disorganized behavior, delusions, which are strong false beliefs, and hallucinations, which are things that could be heard or seen but aren't really in reality. Lastly are negative symptoms, which include abnormal emotion, social and motor withdrawal, inability to feel pleasure, and have a lack of motivation. And it is also important to remember that all cases of schizophrenia are unique and have their own combinations of symptoms together. There is much dispute as to the cause of what schizophrenia is, but one main theory includes the dopamine hypothesis. And this is when there is because of an excess amount of dopamine in the brain, this causes more positive symptoms such as delusions or hallucinations.
Another hypothesis that predicts the mechanisms behind schizophrenia is the glutamate-dopamine interaction. Glutamate is another type of neurotransmitter in the brain, and glutamate and dopamine are highly interconnected. Inadequate levels of glutamate in the brain explain the imbalance of dopamine in the brains of schizophrenic patients. Some brain areas will have too much dopamine and some will have too little. There are two different types of antipsychotic drugs used to treat schizophrenia. The first type is called typical antipsychotics. Typical antipsychotics alleviate the positive symptoms of schizophrenia. They do this by attaching to the dopamine receptors and blocking them so that less dopamine is in the brain area, causing the side effects. There are some serious motor side effects associated with typical antipsychotics, including Parkinsonism, which resembles Parkinson's disease, and tardive dyskinesia, which causes involuntary movement. Because of these side effects, another type of antipsychotic was created called atypical antipsychotics. These may alleviate negative and cognitive symptoms of schizophrenia, but they do not have severe side effects seen in typical antipsychotics. There are many different types of atypical antipsychotics that work on different neurotransmitter systems, reducing dopamine but also acting on other neurotransmitters to relieve the side effects of schizophrenia.